was conducted in conformity with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as required by Section 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia, and certified that the only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements were discussed, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, it has been moved and second that we reconvene and nothing, and we are in compliance of, that we reconvene and we were in compliance of our closed session. Thank you. And at this time, I would like to make a motion.
But can we get a vote?
Oh, we need to vote, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get a verbal from Mr. Cunningham and Ms.
Aye.
Hines. Okay. And everybody else got it? All right, Cunningham. Blues. And there we go.
Okay. Item 9 on our agenda is action and closed session items. It was about student matter JAN-01. And at this time, I would like to make a motion that we uphold the staff's recommendation in student matter JAN-01.
Second.
It has been moved in second that we uphold the staff recommendation with student matter JAN-01. Is there any discussion about that?
No.
Hearing none, we will take a vote.
And a verbal from Ms. Hines.
Aye.
Mr. Cunningham?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your vote. And at this time, nothing else come before us. I would like
Oh, wait.
to.
One-
We amended the agenda for a COVID-19 update,
Oh, we
and
didn't get to
I
that.
will be very brief.
Okay.
We are going to be sending out a letter tomorrow to parents, and staff has been meeting this week, and as you all know in the news, Omicron is very contagious. And we were discussing this week, what is the breaking point if we have to close schools? And there's several things. And this discussion came about with my staff, first with teachers. 2 days ago at Smithfield Middle School, every teacher we had did not have planning period. And we have compensated our teachers. You guys have voted for that at the end of last year. But every teacher had no planning. So that was like the tipping point of one more teacher, we have nowhere to send the kids. And so that would be a school closure for one group. And we could close Smithfield Middle, and then those teachers would Zoom with their students. And we're gonna put all that in the letter, because we haven't had to do that this year. But the other concern that came up, which is even a bigger concern, is transportation. So we had, as you know, we have barely enough drivers to get everyone home if everyone is healthy. And all of our subs are driving, our mechanics are driving, our route man is driving, our coordinator of transportation is driving. Now, he's not driving a bus, he may be driving.
I met him this morning.
He's driving a car. And so this could be and sometimes it's a car driver who has a special ed child that in the IEP, they have mandated an aide, and that aide could be out. So we have to be in compliance and put someone in. So all these factors, we have been very fortunate. Our transportation people have done an amazing job. But to give you an example of what just hit us, is we had 6 drivers out the other day. Last night at 9:30, I got an email from the transportation staff saying we had 8 drivers out, and I believe either 4 or 6 of them was special ed.
Wow.
And they're like, we're going to be able to do it, but we're going to have a tough time. by the time I woke up at 6 o'clock, or, no, I didn't wake up at 6, but communicated with staff at 6 in the morning, we had 17 drivers out. And these are not out because you're sick for one day, you're out for 5 days, or if you are sick, you're out for 10 days. Some of the drivers have scheduled surgery, and you know, the majority of our drivers are very experienced in age. And they're susceptible, and everyone wears masks on the bus, and we're as safe as we can be. But we actually have been shifting kids almost every day this year, where a driver picks up other kids and just extends their route, and we still get to school close to being on time. Today was the first morning we had to call parents and say, we can't pick up your kids at the regular time. We're gonna pick them up late to school. That's a huge burden, especially when you're talking about elementary children.
Right.
And parents have to go to work at the last minute, but there's nothing we can do. So when we're at the point of this, and we know, we are now tracking every day. We know 5 drivers are out for the next 5 days, and if 2 call tomorrow, now we have 7, and we're keeping a running total. And when we hit the breaking point, and we cannot get the kids here, we are gonna have to close the school. Now, what we're gonna put in the letter to parents, and we'll do virtual school. It may be 3 days, it may be 4 days, and we're gonna base that on the data we have of how many drivers are out. But what we're gonna try to do, because it's not like a snow day. A parent can't plan as well for that. A snow day, they can look at the weather and say, uh-oh, I gotta call Aunt Sue, I gotta call my next door neighbor, they have snow plans. So what we're gonna try to do is let them know, like a day in advance, we're at the tipping point, be prepared. If we get 3 more drivers out, we are gonna have to close school for X number of days. So we're gonna try to give them at least a day's notice. But I'm sharing this because it happens that fast. We went from 6 or 8 drivers at 9 o'clock at night last night to 17 this morning.
So what if you get the other 3 tomorrow morning and we cannot notify the parents?
So we may have to do some double runs tomorrow where they're late. But we haven't given them notice, because this has just happened. We just met about this as we've come back. So we are gonna do whatever we can tomorrow, but that's why the letter's going out, because if the data shows we can't open Monday, we're gonna be sending that information out. And we're gonna base it on the people out. If we know we can't get them here, then we'll say it's gonna be 3 days. Now, that may change based on what happens over the next 3 days after that. And we did talk about, and I know I talked some to Ms. Tynes and Mr. Cunningham earlier today about this. We did talk about, could we take some of our middle and high school drivers and send them to the elementary and open elementaries and let middle and high school at the same run. They're older, maybe they can stay home and do virtual, but every single one of our drivers except 2 run both runs. So we can't do that. We're stuck. And it really puts us in a dilemma. Now you could say, parents, it's your job to get them here. We're gonna open, but that's hard to say with little elementary school children, and even some middle school children not appropriate to leave home.
And what would your teacher staff look like if you've got that many bus drivers out? You're probably gonna see similar percentage of
Right,
teachers.
so I have the data here too for teachers. Like today, Carrollton had 10 teachers out. Hardy had 4 other staff members and 2 administrative staff members. Windsor had 6 teachers and 4 other staff members. Carsville, 2.5 teachers, and 2.5 means they went home half day, because they obviously felt sick. Westside, 11 teachers were out today. I don't know how, they probably did the same thing. And we've also done this, just to keep schools open. We've taken our resource teachers, and they are going into the math, history, and science classes some days, and then the kids aren't getting resourced that day, just so we can stay open. Because we also know schools across the United States did not do well virtually. And very few kids did well virtually. Our own test scores showed a small percentage of kids did well. And most of those kids, when we did some qualitative studies asking, is because they had a parent that was home, a grandparent home, they were online with their child. So we know it's not effective. This is a last resort, but we also have to we got to tell the public, this is a possibility. And this is not about politics or anything else. We were one of the only schools that opened last year from the beginning. We're doing everything we can do to not close that door and go to virtual. But I'm telling you, it's a reality that may happen. And we are trying everything possible.
So my question, I guess, would how we address students that have IEPs and stuff in place. If we shut down, will they fall farther behind?
I would say every child would not get the same experience when they're at home. But all of that will be based on, like I said, it may be 2 days, based on the data we have of staff. So it's really not shut down because we have a lot of cases. Because it's already been proven, there's a lot of cases no matter what. We have been, last year, we didn't have to close down at all. I think it was one school, yet Wight County was red almost the whole time. So it's not a matter of the number of cases in the school per se. It's staffing. And can we keep the doors open? I'm hoping we don't have to do it, but I think it would be negligent on our part to just spring it upon the parents. In fact, in the letter going home, I want to outline what we will do virtually.
And what would that look like? Because
My intention is that the teachers will send the schedule home to the child, and the child will be on the regular scheduled time of school. So if you're in school at 7 o'clock at high school, you'll be online at 7 o'clock with your English teacher at high school.
and are these the same sick teachers that are out sick, that are at home teaching from being sick, or these are other teachers that are substitute?
Those teachers will not be teaching if they're sick. So that would be a sub or whatever we did last year, or they wouldn't have it. Yeah.
So are we basing the COVID positive test, or are the teachers sick? Or are they just saying, I'm asymptomatic, I tested positive, I'm out for 5 days, though I'm vaccinated? Like, I want to know what that process looks like.
Susan, do you want to speak more on that?
So right now, if a staff member has symptoms,
Why don't you use the microphone up here? Oh, okay.
Yeah, use this one.
Sorry.
Just slide it.
This is a
Just
ramp.
slide that one over.
That's the way to do it.
how's this? Okay, so right now, you could probably, right now, if a staff member is symptomatic, we ask them to stay home, right? So if they have COVID-like symptoms, they stay home and they seek a test. We are having a lot of trouble finding tests, obviously, but you can get them, and granted, it's taking 3 to 5 days to get results. If you go to like a Walgreens, CVS, it's not quick, but they are going to be staying home waiting those results. If it's negative, they can immediately come back. If it's positive, we're doing the 5 days. If symptoms are resolving and you're feeling better, you may return on day 6 with strict mask use.
So it could possibly be 8 days. Because are you saying 5 days from when then they started having symptoms, or 5 days from when they went and got their test? Because that's 3 days if they're home, plus the 5 days you just gave them. So that's 8 days.
5 days from when their symptoms began.
That's exactly what it should be, yeah. Okay.
And we start, yes.
That's correct, okay.
And we do think, we don't think we'll have to shut down an individual school. We're hoping. The thing that really hit us out of the blue was 17 drivers today. That was shocking. And we actually I had a large part of my staff go to transportation, work with the transportation department. We mapped out every driver, where they drive, because I said, I gotta be able to explain it to the board, be able to explain it to a parent if they call. I had to have a visual of what happens when certain people are out. And depending what the bus is, or how many kids are on a bus, or if it's a car driver, there's not an exact tipping point. But transportation, with their routing system, they'll be able to call us and say, we are at the tipping point, you need to notify the public it might happen. And that's what we want to be proactive and do. And that's kind of where we are right now.
Has the county reached out to any of our retired bus drivers and see if they want to step up and?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm meeting with our drivers. We're splitting up, drivers from Northern and Southern tomorrow afternoon, because I also want to go to them and tell them what we're looking at and what we're doing, because we are taxing them to their last bit. And I know we've paid them more, but if you can imagine these drivers who are afraid for their own health too.
Oh, yeah.
Every day we've been asking them to go pick up 15 more kids. Pick up 15 more kids and now go run a double route. Their exposure is increasing. I don't want them quitting. We got a bigger problem if they walk away. And so we are trying to do whatever we can to balance all of this and try to get through this. And I know you're in the healthcare profession, and what we're hearing and from DDH here is that maybe the first week of February or into the next week, hopefully this spike dies down. So, but we just can't take it for granted for what happened last night, that I immediately got my team assembled and said, we need to notify the public, the board, of what could happen. And we've been fortunate so far, but today really pushed the limit. And those 17 drivers are going to be out tomorrow. And I'm praying no one else calls in tomorrow.
And Mr. Vines, to answer that question, if they have reached out to retired bus drivers, I reached out to a retired bus driver, and the exact words to the bus driver, if they paid me $100 an hour, I would not come back. But that was it, and that was the exact words. So,
Exact words, yeah.
well, they actually said, right now.
So
Okay.
then we need to make a decision on Dr. Thornton's proposal.
Okay,
So,
we have to act on it, right?
yeah.
Well, I don't know if you need
There was
to.
no action.
Yeah, you don't need
We
to
don't know,
vote
it's just
on
what
it.
he was
I'm
giving us an
informing
update.
you that it's like a snow day, but it's not.
Not like
We're
a
gonna teach, and I'm telling you, it's the last resort, and it's something that I may have to do.
And we've already given him that permission,
Okay.
because during the COVID, anything dealing with COVID, that he can act on, okay?
Okay.
All right?
Well, before we close, can I bring up something to the board's attention? I don't know because it wasn't on the agenda.
Well, if it's not on the agenda, does it have to do with school business?
Yes,
Or just a comment you would like to make?
No, it has to do with school business, it has to do with the school board.
It wasn't on our agenda, can we?
What are you talking about?
Mr. Vines wants to bring up something that was not on the agenda to come into the special meeting tonight. As a matter of fact, we have already finished that part of the meeting anyway, because we went into the closed session and we have just reviewed from the closed session. So maybe can you hold it to the next week?
I guess I can, if I have to.
That's up to,
What did you want to say, Mr. Vine? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, I wanted to bring up something on the agenda and to put in the mind of the school board. I did some research and I had even talked to Dr. Thornton about it. And within the last 8 years, our Wight County School Board has not received any type of raise. Matter of fact, we are one of the lowest paid school boards in the state. Surrey gets almost $10,000. Virginia Beach gets $15,000 a year. And Portsmouth gets around $12,000. Our board of supervisors, they get almost $1,000 a month. And I think we're doing the board an injustice, as much traveling and stuff we were doing back and forth, to go that length of time, never giving your school board a raise. He informed me, I guess we haven't gotten one because we give ourselves one. So, so I want to bring that to the board's attention tonight, that I think that needs to be addressed, with the amount of work that we do, the travel. And this month alone, we've got 3 meetings coming up. And,
So is that something that you would like to add for discussion at our next meeting?
yes,
Okay. Ms. Ruud, did you get that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, did the other members hear what Mr. Vine said? Okay, so you have a week to think about it.
thank you.
All right, thank
I
you.
wasn't sure, I didn't want to
And
violate
if
anything.
nothing, if there else to come before this July special meeting of the Wight County School Board,